a deeply disturbed mind, intense mood swings, and an insane drug addiction with over 8,000 prescription pills taken within the course of 6 months.
Had a serious drug problem every day. Last 2 years of Elvis's life, it was every day.
This is the story of why Elvis Presley's last words would have been, "What a long, dark ride it's been," had fate allowed him to utter them. The king of rock and roll is often remembered for his groundbreaking music, electrifying performances, and iconic style. But behind the fame and the music, there was a darker, more complex side to Elvis that many people don't fully understand. He was most likely dealing with undiagnosed mental health issues, possibly bipolar disorder. It doesn't take more than one look at Elvis's erratic behavior to be able to tell that he was struggling.
Security! 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 Security!
Throughout his life, he showed signs that aligned with bipolar disorder, particularly bipolar 1, which involves severe mood swings, including manic and depressive episodes. One big indicator of this was his spending habits. He was known for his extravagant purchases, often buying cars, jewelry, and gifts for friends and strangers alike. Such impulsive spending is a common trait among those experiencing manic episodes. These episodes were not limited to his financial behavior though. His energy levels also fluctuated dramatically. For instance, during the late 1960s, Elvis was incredibly energetic, especially evident during his rehearsals and performances. However, by the early 1970s, his demeanor had shifted. In interviews around 1972, particularly those concerning the Aloha from Hawaii concert, he appeared nonchalant and detached, indicating a potential depressive phase.
It's very hard to comprehend it because
Elvis's isolation during the latter part of his life only highlights his depressive tendencies even more. It was not uncommon for him to withdraw from those around him, a behavior often observed in individuals suffering from depression. His erratic behavior also became more pronounced during these periods. He amassed an unnecessary number of guns, even carrying them on stage, and would often shoot at televisions and cars in fits of anger.
Sharon Tate was the last to die.
Such actions reflect severe agitation and impulsivity, all hallmarks of bipolar disorder. Moreover, Elvis's fascination with law enforcement was another curious aspect of his personality. He collected police badges, dressed up in law enforcement uniforms, and even pulled people over using cars equipped with sirens. He would then defuse the situation by giving autographs, blending his celebrity charm with a bizarre impersonation of authority. This behavior underscores a possible need for control and validation often seen in those experiencing manic phases. Apart from these bizarre fascinations, Elvis's fashion choices also mirrored his mental state. In the 1950s, his wardrobe consisted mainly of black and muted colors. However, by the 1970s, his style had evolved into something much more flamboyant and colorful. This dramatic shift in appearance could be seen as a reflection of his inner turbulence, really bringing to light the stark contrasts in his mood and self-perception. Even the Presley family history supports the idea that he might have struggled with mental health issues. Mental disorders, substance abuse, and suicide were prevalent in his family, indicating a possible genetic predisposition. That just means he may have had suicidal tendencies since birth. Elvis himself battled prescription drug abuse, which likely worsened his mental health problems, creating a vicious cycle of dependency and instability.
We found the pharmacy that dispensed the drugs and the doctor who prescribed them. His medical license was temporarily suspended. A jury acquitted him of criminally overprescribing addictive drugs.
However, Elvis's issues extended beyond just his mental health. He had a well-known problem with commitment and was a serial cheater, which suggests that marriage might not have been the best choice for him. His girlfriends, perhaps with the exception of Priscilla, knew what they were getting into and accepted it. They knew it was his way or the highway, and they accepted that as the price of being with him. Interestingly, these women didn't report that he seemed unhappy or depressed. They spoke about the common common problems associated with his level of fame, which was uncharted territory at the time. Given his constant public presence, it's understandable why Elvis would want to retreat to his bedroom with his girlfriend to get away from it all. Being around people 24/7 can be exhausting for anyone, and this doesn't necessarily make him reclusive. Up until the end, he was often seen smiling, joking, and having a good time. Everyone has bad days, but the truth is, when the king of rock and roll had them, they weren't just bad. Only those closest to him could truly know what he was going through. His health problems likely played a significant role in his drug use. He suffered from a variety of ailments, including glaucoma, diabetes, and intestinal issues, which caused him immense pain. In today's world, we've seen other musicians like Tom Petty, Prince, and Michael Jackson suffer similar fates due to prescription drugs. It's a reminder that doctors need to be held accountable for the medications they prescribe. Oh yes. Many people have suggested that Elvis might have been bipolar, but BPD and bipolar disorder are often confused and misdiagnosed. Elvis was addicted to a cycle of stimulants and sedatives just to fall asleep and wake back up, not to mention the opiates. This cycle of drug abuse may have created what appear to be manic and depressive episodes. However, it seems more likely that his psychological issues stemmed from BPD. BPD affects a person's sense of self-identity and their relationships with others, while bipolar disorder is a mood disorder resulting from a genetic chemical imbalance in the brain. The reason we say Elvis might have suffered from borderline personality disorder, and it's likely his mother displayed many of the same symptoms, is because his mother seemed extremely codependent on him, which was probably linked to losing her other son. The thing is, BPD parents often raise BPD children due to their enmeshed relationships, and Elvis's mother dying when he was 23 absolutely crushed him. The core of BPD is abandonment issues, often stemming from losing a caregiver at a young age. Elvis never recovered from losing his mother, which could explain his impulsive behavior, addictive personality, low self-esteem masked by narcissistic traits, and his abusive and controlling yet sometimes submissive nature in relationships, despite being a deeply passionate lover. He was never officially diagnosed with any specific mental illness, but it's unlikely he ever saw a traditional mental health professional. But from looking at his life, it becomes clear that he had some deep emotional issues. The most unfortunate part is that he came from a really sad family, and so he experienced a lot of loss throughout his life. His twin brother Jesse Garon at birth, the end of his marriage to Priscilla, and most significantly, the death of his beloved mother Gladys. He also faced the loss of a potentially different career path due to Colonel Parker's control. Parker's contracts and career decisions often frustrated Elvis, especially as they pulled him away from the rock music he loved.
Have your claws on me. You still have me working here like a slave in a salt mine. You phony, no good piece of trash. I'm gonna shoot you in your fat gun face.
Particularly the Beatles and the British invasion sound. But as mentioned before, the most impactful loss in his relationships, especially with women, was his mother's death. As a child and teenager, Elvis appeared shy, conflict-averse, and a loner. He had an obsessive need to please and win his mother's admiration, which may have roots in an Oedipus complex, where a child becomes overly attached to one parent and hostile toward the other. Elvis attempted to balance his unhealthy attachment to his mother by seeking independence, such as joining the military. However, his relationship dynamics with women were telling. He was famously obsessed with young, beautiful girls, the opposite of his older mother. It's reported that he refused to have intercourse with women who had given birth, which eerily aligns with Oedipal dynamics. Perhaps the most disturbing revelations come from his ex-wife Priscilla, who shared how abusive and controlling Elvis was towards her during their 14 years of marriage. In her memoir, Priscilla admits that there was a big power difference between them, and she kind of started seeing Elvis like a god. They got together when she was just 14 and he was 24, which, looking back, she realizes wasn't exactly healthy. Elvis took on multiple roles in her life, shaping her into his ideal woman, both in appearance and behavior. He taught her everything from how to dress and apply makeup to how to behave and return love, but always in his way. Over time, Priscilla felt that Elvis became her father and her husband. He wanted her to dye her hair darker and wear heavier makeup to match his style. He even picked out the colors she should wear, mostly the same ones he wore himself. Priscilla was basically his living doll, following his lead in everything. She started to become more like him, adopting his tastes and even his worries and hang-ups. When Elvis came back to the US after his army service, he asked Priscilla to promise to stay untouched as I left you. He even repeated this request when she visited him at Graceland nearly 2 years later. But here's the twist. Elvis was still seeing his ex-girlfriend Anita Wood during this time. Priscilla found out that Anita had been hanging out at Graceland and even staying in Elvis's room just before her visit. Disgusting. Even after Priscilla moved to Tennessee to be closer to Elvis, she couldn't ignore the signs that he was messing around with other women. There were moments when Elvis openly flirted with other women right in front of her. What a douche. And when Priscilla tried to confront him about it, he just brushed her off, saying, "No one tells me who I can look at and who I can't." It's clear that Elvis's request for Priscilla to stay untouched was more about control than fidelity. Despite Priscilla's efforts to turn a blind eye to his infidelities, the cracks in their relationship were starting to show. When Priscilla landed a part-time modeling job at a boutique in Memphis to earn some extra cash, she was pretty excited. But when she called Elvis to share the news, he wasn't exactly thrilled. He basically told her she had to choose between him and her career, saying, "It's either me or a career, baby, because when I called you, I need you to be there."
There's a boutique that said I could work there part-time. I thought I could work there a few days a week after school.
We don't have to forget about that.
So Priscilla had to give up her modeling gig to be there for Elvis whenever he needed her. It wasn't until after they divorced that Priscilla finally got to pursue her own career. In 1973, she opened her own clothing boutique called Beast and Bow. Later on, she even got into acting, appearing on TV shows like Dallas. She revealed that despite being asked to put her own career on hold for Elvis's sake, he wasn't always there for her when she needed support. Whenever she felt down or wanted to talk things out to feel closer, he would avoid her or dismiss her feelings, saying it wasn't a good time, and in her own words, there was never a good time. He was also pretty possessive and jealous, especially when it came to Priscilla forming friendships with other men at Graceland. Even though she got along with Elvis's crew, he made it clear she was his girl and shouldn't get too cozy with anyone else. What an insecure man. Seriously. Once Priscilla was down in the kitchen having a conversation with Jerry Schilling, one of Elvis's buddies, and upon finding them speaking together, Elvis yelled, "What the hell are you two doing down here?" before ordering Priscilla to go back upstairs and lashing out at Jerry. During her initial years at Graceland, Priscilla was exceptionally busy. Despite still attending school during the day, she would stay up late with Elvis, joining him for movie outings and visits to fairs. She described this period as one where every free moment was dedicated to cramming an entire semester's worth of work into just a few weeks. However, she found it challenging to focus due to the strain of life at Graceland. To cope with the demands, Elvis suggested that Priscilla start taking a mix of prescription pills. She believed they would help her maintain the fast pace and, more importantly, assist her in studying for her final exams. This recommendation came after a troubling experience with sleeping pills that caused her to sleep for 2 days, similar to a scene in the Coppola film. Although Priscilla contemplated confiding in a nun at her Catholic school about her overwhelming stress, she ultimately decided against it. Instead, she resorted to passing her exams by persuading a straight-A student to discreetly share their test paper so she could copy down the answers. She's also shared in her book about a few times when Elvis used his physical strength against her. Wow, what a man, right? Once they were both hyped up on uppers and started a playful pillow fight. However, things took a turn when Elvis got upset at how hard Priscilla was throwing the pillows. He grabbed her arm, tossed her onto the bed, and while showing how hard she had thrown the pillows, accidentally hit her in the eye. Priscilla's arm ended up bruised from Elvis's grip, and she had a swollen black and blue eye from the accidental hit. To make sure Elvis felt bad about it, she wore a patch over her eye afterward. Despite the incident, Elvis joked about it, saying Priscilla had tried to get rough with him and he had to show her who's boss. At another time during a listening session for demo recordings in Elvis's office, Priscilla was asked for her opinion on a song for a new album. She bravely voiced her dislike for the song. To her shock, Elvis reacted by throwing a chair at her. What? Fortunately, she managed to dodge it in time, but a stack of records on the chair flew off and...
Solo, what do you think?
I don't know if I like it.
Watch out!
One hit her in the face. Elvis quickly realized what he had done and rushed to apologize, embracing Priscilla in his arms as he frantically expressed his regret. Very normal or healthy or like, no, he was sick. It was a moment that left Priscilla shaking, but also highlighted Elvis's quick change from anger to remorse. After discovering evidence suggesting Elvis was cheating on her again, this time with another woman following his affair with Anne Margaret, Priscilla decided to confront him. However, his reaction was harsh. He threw her clothes out of the closet and demanded she pack up and leave for her parents' home in Germany. This left Priscilla feeling humiliated and in tears. Yeah, of course. As she packed her belongings, Elvis watched, only revealing at the last moment that she wasn't actually being sent away. This came as a big relief to her, and she returned to his arms, unaware at the time that this was Elvis's way of maintaining control over her emotion. Looking back, she realized that her then-husband used such tactics to keep her under his influence. Yeah, a very small and insecure man again. At a breaking point after witnessing Elvis openly flirt with other women once again, Priscilla felt desperate for his attention, so she concocted a plan she believed would finally make him take notice. With tears streaming down her face, she made a drastic decision. She would intentionally overdose on Placidyls, the same sedative both she and Elvis regularly used to help them sleep. As she swallowed the pills, she braced herself for what she believed would be the end. The weight of unspoken words pushed her to consider leaving a note, expressing all the feelings she had kept bottled up. But as she waited for the pills to take effect, Priscilla had a realization that changed everything. Despite her dramatic gesture, Elvis hadn't even noticed she was gone from the gathering. The sound of his laughter in the distance only fueled her anger and determination. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Priscilla's initial despair began to transform into a fiery resolve. In that moment, she couldn't help but feel foolish for her impulsive actions. It was a turning point that left her questioning her own desperation for his attention. To everyone's surprise, she also disclosed that toward the end of their marriage, Elvis sexually assaulted her. She shared a distressing incident that occurred in Las Vegas when she was called up to Elvis's suite and found him lying in bed waiting for her. While the movie adaptation portrays Elvis storming off into another room after Priscilla rejects his advances, Priscilla's memoir reveals a much darker truth. She vividly described how Elvis forcibly made love to her, using his physical strength to overpower her. Cozy. Not. It was uncomfortable and unlike any other time he'd ever made love to me before, she wrote, explaining how Elvis's demeanor had drastically changed. She attributed his behavior to being under the influence and expressed feeling like she was with a stranger. The next day, still reeling from the traumatic encounter, Priscilla made a decision that would have been inconceivable to her just a few years earlier. She told Elvis she was leaving him. And now, after more than 46 years since Elvis' passing, she still thinks about him every day. She's shared how she still spends time at Graceland, and when she does, she can still feel Elvis' spirit there. Here's what she said in a recent interview. To be honest, there isn't a day that goes by when I don't think of him. Just last week I saw a shirt and I could almost hear myself saying, Elvis would love that. Should I get it for him? Priscilla even speculated about Elvis's potential musical direction had he lived longer, suggesting he might have leaned more towards gospel music. In the end, no matter what kind of man Elvis had been, be it abusive, mentally sick, or extremely dark and controlling, Priscilla still has a special place for him in her heart. Do I dream of Elvis? Sure, she admitted. When someone has been such a big part of your life, that's bound to happen. Living with him was a roller coaster, but I don't think I'll ever find anyone I love as much as I loved him. And that, fanatics, was the true story of the king of rock and roll. We'll catch you in the next video.